this is what I can be, a
Yeah.
murderer. Because when she's jerking it, I guess, is it jerking it when you're a girl? When she's
Flicking the bean.
Yeah. Anyway, when
The
she's doing
LL
that,
bean.
you're just gonna keep going, are you?
I finally
Watched.
I finally
Watched. I
finally
watched. I
finally
watched.
I finally
Watched.
Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of I Finally Watched. I'm Milan.
Hey, this is David, and today I finally watched Stoker.
So this movie came out in 2013, and I went to theaters watching it, thinking it was some sort of like Dracula movie. I had no idea.
I actually
think
I halfway through this was like, is he gonna be Dracula?
yeah. So I think I had an ex-girlfriend drag me to it. I honestly had no idea what this movie was going to be about, but with a name like Stoker, you kind of think Dracula. So yeah, I mean, this movie quite surprised me. you thinking he's just halfway going to turn into Dracula is kind of funny. Like, this is a vampire movie.
I've seen him in the light though, so
Right. You know, one thing I'll just mention it now, but is the tone of this movie is like a dark tone, but it's a very bright movie. And when, I think before we did this podcast, I knew very little to no Korean movies. And so I did not realize when watching it, I mean, I thought it was a fucking vampire movie, right? But I didn't know about any Korean directors. So then when I mentioned this movie and you're like, oh, it's Park Chan-wook, and I'm like, holy shit, it is.
yeah, I think this is his one. It was definitely his first non-Korean movie, like his first American movie. I don't think he's done one since, right? So
I don't think so. We have
other 2013.
Yeah, 2013. We have other Korean directors doing American movies. But yeah, so I put two and two together, and then rewatching it, I was like, oh, this is very much like, this is paced and edited very much like a Korean film. It kind of makes sense now. But when I watched this in theaters, I think I actually saw this twice. I liked it a lot. It was very like creepy, yet like, I don't know. I liked it in a way that I didn't think I would, because I don't usually like these kinds of films. But David, what did you think of Stoker?
So I just thought the first watch, I was like, this movie it's very weird, and it's like a little bit hard to follow, but also kind of like simple at the same time. Like, I don't think at any point you think Matthew Goode is not like a bad character, that he's not evil. You know what I mean? Just like the smile he gives off, the dead eyes, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's like a secret they're trying to keep for the twist ending, you know?
Right, but then even the twist ending about her, like, as I'm getting to it, I was just like, oh, okay, I guess, I mean, you sort of see this coming from a mile away. But watching it the second time, I did appreciate it a lot more. And you and I were talking about this before, and this was kind of a point you made, and I was like, yeah, I completely agree that this is like, it felt like a Korean movie with just like American actors and in English, right? Which,
yeah,
sometimes doesn't translate perfectly. And I can think of like, Old Boy, the American version didn't translate.
Yeah, but that's not a Korean director.
No, but I'm talking about it's a Korean, what's funny is this isn't a Korean story. So this was written by Wentworth Miller, who is most famously known from the show Prison Break, the actor in Prison Break.
The actor. Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. and so this was like the first thing he ever wrote, but it feels like a Korean story, and I think a lot of that has to do with Park Chan-wook's like directorial style.
Well,
The
whenever like strong incest is in the mix, you know, because of Old Boy particularly, you get like a Park Chan-wook feel automatically.
well, someone was like, if Old Boy is Oedipus, this is Electra. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the but it's like I said. So first watch, I was a little underwhelmed. Second watch, I was like, you notice a lot more, you appreciate a lot more. It is like a very simplistic movie, and one thing I read, which is never a good sign, like you assume a studio got involved, right? But is that like 30 minutes of the movie was cut, and I'm curious as to why. But like it did feel like some stuff was missing here or there, some like more explanation and more like what explaining what the movie was going for. But I did really like, even the first watch. I really enjoyed it. I was like, I really enjoyed this movie, but I don't really understand. Like it was kind of weird. The second time I watched it, like you get a lot more. There's a lot of like subtle dialogue, especially from Mia Wasikowska, if that's how you pronounce that last name.
Yeah,
And
if it is, I'm very impressed.
well, I always like want to say Wasikowski, but then like there's an A on the end, so it's like it's gotta be Kauska. There's just like a lot of subtlety to it when you have like these like very dramatic camera movements is the thing I noticed like the most. You know what I mean? Like it's another character, the way he like will pan in and on people and around them and like showing like what they're looking at. So I liked it. It's a super interesting movie, and I think one thing it's really defined by is the performances. Like Nicole Kidman is amazing, Matthew Good is amazing, Mia Wasikowska is amazing. Like all three of those are so good in it, and then the supporting characters are great as well.
This is my first Matthew Good film. So when I saw him in The Lookout, I was already like suspecting him very much so. He plays a very good bad person. The thing, the beginning of this film, when it starts at the funeral and the little that we get to know about her father and what we see in flashbacks, he seems like he's the most sane person in the entire flick.
Yeah.
It's like he almost had to die at the very beginning of this because it would be very easy for him to be like the voice of reason and like you later find out that he kind of knew that his daughter was psychotic and took her out hunting to kind of get to like kind of exercise her demons out there in the field. You know, like it says in the movie, you got to do like little bad things to like subdue the real bad thing you want to do, something like that.
Well, thanks for listening for another episode of You just did that thing you do where you just went to the number one point of the movie and we're not even 5 minutes in and you're like, by the way, did you notice? I hate you so much.
What?
No, one thing I want to talk about in the actual beginning of the movie, it starts with the end of the movie. It starts with
that's right.
her
That's
looking
right.
out into a field and her saying, I wear my father's belt and my mother's blouse and my uncle's shoes. And then you look and you see these flowers that like don't look real because they're white with like these red spots all over it. And if you compare the flowers at the beginning to the end, like it's very
They're different.
Yeah, it's blood at the end very clearly, and then on this, it's like those are red and white flowers. So it's like they didn't want to give away too much. But I like that. Like I like that the movie's like basically tells you everything in the beginning, but you're gonna forget all that, and then as you move through, you get to like you get it explained to you. So that's like a very nice touch.
Yeah. And each thing is broken down throughout the movie. Like the father's belt is explained first, and then the mother's blouse towards the end, and then the uncle's shoes is kind of this long-term reveal through the movie, but it's not what you think. So I find that interesting.
Yeah, well, she's also wearing her dad's glasses as well.
Yeah.
I think one of the issues with the movie that people could have, and that I had a little bit, is just like So as I said, Matthew Goode's character is like, you understand from the beginning that he's evil, but then also her character too, right? Like she doesn't hide what she is as well. It's like she comes off as like a psycho, you know what I mean? Like, and they even call her that, but just like in the medical sense of like she just doesn't care about other people. She seems to like she doesn't even really fake it, you know what I mean? So it's just interesting that like it kind of I think makes the ending somewhat obvious, even though I think it is well done otherwise. I think the decision to kind of show her that way from the beginning is this like weird recluse character. Um, I think it can make it to where the ending is just telegraphed.
I think that the twist comes in a different form. And so I don't completely ruin it. I'll talk about it when we get closer there, but I don't think it's the fact that she's evil, because I don't think, like you said, they're not hiding that at all. So I think it's just
That her dad knew, or that the brother
no.
killed.
That's part of it, but I think that it's a bigger picture with that.
I do think we can get back into the like the point of the plot where we're in though, and we meet. What's funny is I didn't know who Miss McGarrick was at first. I thought she was someone different, and that was like a grandmother that we were meeting. It's something I like
I
missed.
Yeah, I get people can see her as a grandmother, but she's like the head housekeeper, like she's the
Yeah,
one that keeps them all in line.
this movie plays as if it's like in the 1800s, but like they're just like a rich family that's sort of
They're
stuck in the
just like
past a little bit.
stupid rich. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we meet her, and she like, there's this thing with the she gets shoes for her birthday every year, and she's like, oh, I guess I should have known that you were the one buying them for me and not my dad. Which is actually, it was Charles, I guess, who was buying them for her, picking them out each year. Which
But it was the
Miss McGarrick.
Miss McGarrick is the one who was setting them out, right?
Yeah, I think that's what we're supposed to get. And then this year she gets a key, which there's this scene later where you like are kind of barely eavesdropping, and it's like Miss McGarrick's like, listen, I was your eyes and your ears and your hands here this whole time. I've done everything you ask. Like, I'm the only one that, and she sort of is like, I'm the one that could like sell you out, but I'm not going to do that. And then we find out later that he like murdered her right then and there, and we sort of just never hear from her again. But it's like, why is she doing that for him? For Charles?
Well, okay, so when Mia goes into her father's study and like finds all these photographs of her father and Charlie young, you see her in some of these photographs when those kids were like 8 and 9 years old. So I guess you assume that she's been in that family for like decades. So she has some sort of attachment to Charlie.
Yeah, and it's an attachment above like the rest of the family. She likes Charlie, the murderer, more than anyone else.
I mean, I think that's exactly what we're supposed to think.
There's also this interesting. So when we first meet Charlie, we have this interesting bit where he like starts following India. Her name is India in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Starts following her, or like as she's like running away, leaving out the house, and he's only stopped by Nicole Kidman, like, oh hey, come meet these people. And it is interesting the subtle way in which the movie sort of shows you from the very beginning he's infatuated with her, and she like one of my friends used to always have this saying like a sailor knows another sailor from afar. She recognizes a psycho immediately when she sees him, and she like is and it starts with she saw him at the funeral, and oh man, and she has this line where she's like, I see things people don't see, I hear things people don't hear. She recognized her dad's sunglasses from like hundreds of yards away when he was wearing them at the funeral.
Yes.
So she knew immediately, this is the guy that murdered my father.
But then she didn't know that it was her uncle. Like at the same, like she finds that out at the wake, or at the, that's called a wake, right?
Depending on what ethnicity you are, it's like, wake or the viewing or the the after party. Yeah.
After Party, definitely. I like After Party better. But yeah, so it's like all these pieces come together for her. And it's this weird, like, he's infatuated with her, right? But like as the movie progresses, she becomes infatuated with him
I don't think so.
later on. Like, well, we haven't talked about that scene yet, but up till that point, she's trying to like avoid him. Like he shows up at her school, like all the other girls are going nuts about him, and she's just trying to like lay low.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to know after the end of this that it's because she kind of always knows what happened. The next thing though is like when the mom wants to go out with India, and we kind of get that India's always been like a daddy's girl. We always like took her out hunting, and like you always chose your father over me. Um, and then Nicole Kidman says this line of like, I wasn't always distant from your father. I just missed when he was young. And she kind of looks out and sees the 10-year
Charlie.
young, yeah, who's like
Yeah.
9 or 10 years younger than her husband. She's like, she immediately like this look on her face of like, ooh, I could bang that.
There's a moment in the movie where like he's in a kitchen and the kitchen is double corridored, and so she's on one end and India's on the other. She says that line, she looks at him, and the camera rotates back around the kitchen and then frames up Charlie and India in the same frame, and then he says something like the wine, like something about the age of the wine is not necessarily good when it's old, but better when it's young, or something like that. And the way the camera moves and frames him and Mia in the same shot is the creepiest thing.
Yeah, I agree. So while he goes out on a date with the mom, which is one other nitpick with this movie is like trying to figure out, I don't know, like the relationships there, but we'll get to it. But so he goes out there and they go out on a little date, and Mia just immediately starts snooping. And this is when she finds like the package of, that are like, it's the same gift wrapping that she always gets her shoes in, but somehow he has it. She's like, oh, what's that? Or as the audience,
It's the box, right? It's like the whole
yeah,
box is in there.
right. And as the audience, we're confused, but I don't think she was actually. Now that I think about it, I think she kind of knew all along what was going on.
Well, there's like a ridiculous amount of evidence in that bag. There's like a portfolio that has like passports and IDs and business cards. We later get like exactly what that is, but it looks very suspicious at this point in the film. And I remember watching this for the first time and thinking like, oh, obviously, like I thought the twist was, and you probably thought this too, maybe, is that he's not who he says he is, because no one has seen him for a long time, and she didn't even know she had an uncle. So maybe it's like a escape mental patient that like got the ID of Charlie Stoker,
Yeah, I never thought that. I thought it was like, oh, that just makes sense. He has a bunch of these cards and shit because he's a world traveler, is what they'd say. So that actually like didn't really tip me off to anything. But when they get back and he's like, yeah, he's talking about the wine, and he's like, oh, I got you ice cream. I got you vanilla and chocolate. She's like, I don't like those. I like swirl. Nicole Kidman's like, you can make that yourself.
Oh, speaking of the ice cream, is that you would think as much money as these people have, they can afford some, I don't know, like a less creepy ass basement.
Well, also, I was thinking too, the second watch was like, so how does Charlie know about that except for that he put Miss McGarrick's body in there?
Knows about what? The
The
freezer
ice,
down
yeah, the
below?
freezer down below.
You have to also assume that they grew up in that house.
But it looked like a different house. That's what it seemed like they were saying, but it seemed like a different house.
So Miss
From like,
McGarrick just like follows the family wherever they move. I guess that makes sense too.
I mean, yeah, she was leaving.
Like but generationally?
What's funny too is like, oh, Miss McGarrick left without saying anything, and they just sort of were like, whatever. When this lady has lived with them for their entire lives, and they're just like, yeah, she hasn't called. I don't know.
Like you and I both know the cop knows at the end what happened to Miss McGarrick, right? And I mean, even India knows that the cop knows. That's why she has to do what she did. But I love like how blasé Nicole Kidman's character is through the entire movie. Like these people have been just disappearing around her, and she's like just absolutely okay with it.
Well, because she's playing like this, like I said, it's like a movie like in the 1800s. She's playing like this Southern belle type character that, like,
Never
gets
leaves
the
the
has
house.
to lay down, drinks a lot. I get the vapors, and I need to have a lie down.
For her,
So,
it's probably like a Xanax Ambien mix or
yeah,
something.
right. Yeah. So I mean, like, just everything to her is just like whatever. We'll figure it out. Because she even says to Charlie when Miss McGarrick's not there, she's like, I don't know how to make dinner. And he's like, oh, I'll do it. Which also, when he doesn't eat, that's total like vampire behavior. When he just like looks at the food.
When I was watching this with my wife, she was like, "Oh my god, is that Miss McGarrett like as the meal?"
Well, and when India takes the ice cream downstairs, there's this overhead shot of the freezer for a second. I was like, is there a body in there? Because it's like exactly what it's trying to show you. Like whenever there's a freezer like that, it's like, is there a body in that freezer?
It there is, but it doesn't show you that. And then you think like, did she see a body and she's just ignoring it on purpose? Because you have to believe that she's been crazy all this time. So it's like how much is she letting Charlie get away with before she acts upon it? I
Yeah.
guess is my thought while I was watching this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like what I think Charlie takes care of her pretty quickly. He's like, I gotta get rid of all these loose ends. I think his plan is just to kill everybody but India. So we get to the kid bothering her in art class. Another cool detail is they're drawing this vase, and she's actually just drawing the pattern on the inside of the vase that no one else can see.
Is that what she was doing?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, because I think the
Yeah.
scene starts with the shot of the up close inside of the vase, right?
Well, it ends with it too. So,
Yeah.
but then this kid just comes up to her, and I guess he ends up playing the MacGyver. But this kid comes up to her and like draws her.
He does end up playing MacGyver.
He draws her naked, and then when she has no reaction, he just pantomimes hitting her. I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing too. He's like a bully that's like so sexually frustrated that he'll resort to like beating the woman that he's sexually frustrated to. I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
I think there's some like latent homosexuality coming out of that kid.
So one detail about the movie that I actually didn't notice until this time watching, and this is probably like my third or fourth time watching this film. One detail I didn't realize is that Alden comes in when the other guys are like cornering her and she stabs the MacGyver guy with the pencil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he comes in like, stop bullying her, like he's the good guy, right?
Yeah.
And he has this certain charm about him that as the audience, you automatically just really like him. Like you're like, oh, you didn't?
No, I was like, he came in as sort of a savior, but I was like, honestly, I was saying to you before we recorded that I was like, I don't know how great he is, and the reason why is the first thing I saw him in was Hail Caesar, and in Hail Caesar, he's playing a bad actor.
Yeah, but that's why he's so good.
I know, right? So, and then I actually really liked him. I think he is like the least reprehensible part of Solo. So, but in this, he's playing this character. He comes in as like the savior, but he's just like, he then sits down in the chair that the bully's sitting down in. I was like,
yes,
you just took the place of that bully, right? And
I
the way
noticed that this watch too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, the way he was acting, I was like, I didn't get good guy vibes from him. And so it was like,
the tipping point of that is that he is able to back down the bully so easily. And then, like you said, he sits in like the throne of the bullies. So it like makes you think that he's this savior, and yet only the king bully could do all that to begin with.
Yeah. Also, so he calls her Stroker. The other guy's named Pitts. He's like he calls her Stroker because she's basically like you're fucking your uncle and so is your mom. Um, and then she's like gets up to him. He's like, he's like, you have no idea what I do to little girls. I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, he I think the whole point of that writing is just to really throw you off that Alden's character is bad. So you're so focused on this blonde bitch and being like he's the villain of the story. But yeah, and I think it's just really smart how they have it that Alden comes in and he backs everyone down real quick, like saving her, but he just wants her for himself. And that's kind of like the whole point of his character.
Well, but what I'm going to say about the other bully is that like she says that to him. She says, "What are what are you talking about?" She gets in his face, and then he's just gonna fucking hit her as hard as he can. But she has a pencil and stabs him in the hand. I was like, "Who is this guy? Like, what is this character?"
It makes you think because he fake punched her in art class. Was he going to just fake punch her again? But she stopped it with the pencil too short.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
Have you ever been stabbed with a pencil?
Not by another person. I've maybe like accidentally done it to myself, but no, I don't think anyone stabbed me with a pencil.
I've been stabbed with it. It hurts. It really fucking hurts. And he brushes it off like a small inconvenience. So
It was not. Yeah, I mean, the thing went fairly deep. She had to like, use the pencil sharpener to get the rest of it off. So
the imagery in the movie, like with the pencil sharpener and with the spider and like other details like that, is so interesting to me. Like I think that's where you really see the director's creativity in the film.
yeah, I can see that. Let's get back to it though. I want to talk about him following her on the school bus. And then there is a point where she's on the school bus and then it sort of just cuts and she's walking where the school bus was driving and he's just following her behind in his car. And I was like, that's when I was watching this first time. I was like, I don't understand what's happening here. Like, I actually kind of thought she was crazy. And so, like, I thought, at this point, I think, you have that little bit. And then right after this, she finds Miss McGarrick's body, but then doesn't say anything. And I was like, oh, is she just imagining these things?
Right.
And then when Alden Ehrenreich gets killed, I was like, did she imagine that too? Because we see two different scenarios. So I was like, for most of the movie, I was like, is she a crazy person?
So did you enjoy that editing? Like, crossfade from like she's walking on like where the school bus is, and then it like she's actually walking up her driveway. I thought that was really awesome.
That also seems like a very long walk.
Well, she took it most of the way, but yeah, he just follows her in the car like a fucking weirdo.
And then it's going to rain. Take an umbrella, and she's just, I will not take an umbrella.
Especially from you. And then it's just like as a fuck you, it's just hanging on the gate.
Yeah. And then we get a couple scenes where like they, Charlie starts hitting on the mom, plays piano with her, plays tennis with her, takes the dad's belt.
Oh, that's the big plot point, is that he doesn't know how to play piano.
Right? He's pretty fucking, well, yeah, he doesn't know how to play piano, but then once again, he then there's that scene where he plays with
India.
And she like I think almost like has an orgasm while they're doing it, right?
Yeah.
And then she looks over and he's not there. Like that I think has to have been imagined, right? Like
no, I think he just left. I think he just got up and left.
He's like, oh, you're having your own little moment here. I'm gonna get out.
I mean, it makes more sense that way, right? Because then it comes. One of my favorite lines in the movie is when he's not even hiding it from Nicole Kidman's character anymore. He's just like out there with it, and he's playing the piano so beautifully with India, and she's sitting at the dining room table, and she gets up and she like tells him like, come to my room with me. And then she goes, I've enjoyed your performance quite a bit. but
Right.
not talking about just the piano performance, but like the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, you really like Nicole Kidman's character because she's now aware of everything and she's calling his shit out on him. I love that scene.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I do want to talk about that more too. So next we get Aunt Gwen stops by, and basically she's just like, okay, so she has to be a maternal or a paternal aunt, right?
I assume
Because
so
she
because
knows
she
about
knows Charlie. Yeah.
yeah. So, and she tries to warn them, but no one wants to do it in front of Charlie because they're like, he's going to kill everyone here. So she tries to, and then basically the Nicole Kidman's like not having it, like, oh, you're not wanted here. So she's funny. She's like, you're not wanted here, and then India's like comes out and like, hey, you should stay the night, just because she hates her mother and loves her father, I guess. And Matthew Good's like, so where are you staying? The Biltmore. And then goes to the cabbie. Are there any other hotels besides the Biltmore? And apparently the only other hotel is the rattiest, shittiest motel.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing about Matthew Good's performance, and I know you really want to talk about the performances here, is that he plays this cool, calm, collective guy that is a killer, that's totally in control. But then in moments like when he approaches the aunt and he's like, you lied to me. You told me you were staying at the Biltmore. He brings out this like child innocence really fucking well.
Yeah, he does it in that scene, which connects to the flashback scene where he kills the dad. Those are
Yeah.
the two times where he does it. And it's really like, yeah, it's just really well done acting.
Like chills.
And I think you could see it. Some people could see it as a little over the top, but I think like that's the point of all these performances is they are supposed to be over the top. That's like what the movie's going for. And yeah, he just kills her. And as he's killing her, we discover Miss McGarrick's body in the freezer at the exact same time. And that
They
is
also
just
do this. They also did this cool thing with her phone, like her trying to call the house, but no one's at the house, and then India trying to call her phone. Yeah, I thought that was a cool touch too.
no, yeah, it was absolutely. So we talked about the scene with Whip and him stepping in. And then we get to the scene where Charlie plays the piano with her. And that is like the moment where it seems like she might be falling for Charlie. Now, I was like, you said this, like she becomes sort of infatuated with him. And I was kind of going back and forth on this because, like, at one point she has this line to Whip where she's like, have you ever, like, had a picture taken of you from a new angle when you didn't know it was happening? And then you see it and you're like, oh, that's me also. And it's like, is she in love with Charlie, or is she just like, what she sees in Charlie is she's like, oh, this is what I can be, a murderer. Because when she's jerking it, I guess, is it jerking it when you're a girl? When she's
Flicking the bean.
Yeah, anyway. When
The
she's doing
LL
that,
bean.
you're just going to keep going, are you? So when she's doing that in the shower later, she's not doing it thinking about Charlie necessarily. She's doing it thinking about Whip dying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I don't think she ever falls in love with him because I think she does, like the only person she does love is her father. So this whole time she's like, I'm pretty sure you killed my father. And then when he confirms it, she's like, all right, well now you have to die.
I took it a little bit a different way because of the piano scene. There was no murder happening there, and the I don't think they're actually. I think the spider crawling up her leg into her vagina parts is very like symbolic. I don't think there's actually a spider. It's just symbolism there, and it's like he's burrowing his way into her sexuality in a way. I think she is turned on by him, but because she's a psychopath, she could easily off him and she wouldn't care, right? Because I think there's this growing infatuation with him and maybe the possibility of being a murderer. But then when she learns that he's the one who killed her dad, she just turned that off real quick. And she was like, oh, okay, then I just have to kill you.
But I think she knew the whole time that he killed her dad.
But not for sure. Not until he admitted it, right? There's a moment where she's like, "Oh, it's so weird that you have those glasses because my dad has those glasses," and his glasses would have been destroyed because of the way the car crashed, and he always kept them in the glove box. Those can't be his glasses, and she's like baiting him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, like I mentioned before with the hunting, that's like part of the lessons that she was taught with her dad too, is the waiting.
Yeah, and I can't remember, like, one of the coolest things from this, I can't remember if it's a line he says or you just get it from the dad constantly, just her. There's so many flashbacks to her holding the gun, waiting and waiting, and the dad just looking at her like, not yet, not yet, not yet. And then he gives her this signal and she shoots, right? And so
Yeah.
to me, the whole movie is her, especially towards the end, and the reason she kind of says I'll go away with you is to set up the perfect opportunity to murder him when she had, because she's like, he's crazy too, so I can't just be
Right.
willy-nilly about this. I got to do it when I can do
So
it.
that's the thing too, right? Is that, but first of all, I don't believe that being a psycho is hereditary. And how did he know that she was gonna be like him? I don't know. But I think maybe you could just
Because Miss
in
McGarrick knew. That's the only way. It's because she was telling him everything.
but then what did she do at 5 years old that tipped him off?
Um, well, I mean, the dad knew, right? So she had to be doing something. That's why he took her hunting.
I guess. I
That
think it's kind of a lucky guess from Charlie, but I digress. My point is that uh she probably thought, if he's like me and he's backed into a corner, he'll kill me, he'll kill my mom. She could have, there was a perfect moment where she could have just told the sheriff. But Charlie is psychotic, but he's also really smart, right? So he probably would have just figured out a way to just finagle his way out of a situation and kill everyone anyways. So
Yeah. So we talked about her going to, she sees Whip, or she sees her mom and Charlie making out, and she decides to go to Whip, sort of to like recreate that moment. There's this funny line from Nicole Kidman. She's like, I don't care who you are. And Charlie goes, me either. I don't care who I am as well.
yeah.
Which is funny. Later on, she like looks at her own daughter. She's like, I don't even know who you are. And I was like, Nicole Kidman, do you know who anyone is in this movie? Are you familiar with any of these people?
she's so amped up on amphetamines. Who knows?
So Whip attempts to rape her after she bites his lip, and we get two versions of this. We get the version where she just kicks him a few times after Matthew Goode ties him up, and then we get the version where he then attacks her, and fucking Charlie just breaks him in half.
So it's not two versions; it's a continuation of the previous.
Except we show her kicking him, and then her and Charlie leaving, and then her getting into the shower, right? And
Okay,
then it goes back and shows her more dirty, and her taking a shower where she's completely dirty because he attacked her, threw her to the ground, right? So it is messing with your mind about what happened. It's not. It's
that's
you
not
know,
how
whether. What do you mean?
That's okay. So there's a moment where at the point where she's kicking him, right?
Yeah.
When we go back to that, Whip, after being kicked by her, takes her to the ground and crawls on top of her.
I know
And
you're having a semantics argument with me. That's fine. But what I'm saying is the movie is tricking you into thinking she didn't kill him. They leave without the body, and then it shows you them leaving with the body. That's two different versions.
Okay. And you know what? I mean, I did not notice the more dirty part. So kudos to you for noticing that.
You didn't notice the second shower scene was more dirty because I noticed it.
Oh, yeah, but not in that way.
So yeah, then she she does her business in the shower.
Flicking the bean.
I don't know what accent you were going for, but she also at the same time is crying because like her aunt, she like calls her aunt's cell phone and then hears it in the ground. Which is like, why is that? Why is that battery still working? Why would you bury her with the cell phone? Like, why wouldn't you turn the cell phone off? Like, how you're not that good at this. But he loves burying people from a young age.
But not even that, but he went out of his way to return her cell phone to her just to kill her instantly, which at one point I thought, oh, that's because they didn't want like maybe the cops to trace that the phone was left with him or something like that. Like if her phone was with her, then it would make more sense. But then burying it with her would only incriminate because they could track it and like on their property, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, probably gotta take the SIM card out, make sure that thing's not working. Turn it off at least. So the next thing we get is her brushing her mom's hair, which is funny. She's like, "Mom, will you brush my hair?" And she's like, "Oh, well, I was about to go to bed." And she's like, "Okay, well, I'll brush your hair." And the mom's like, "Oh yeah, I guess I'm not that tired." But she talks about hunting, and this is like the coolest part of the movie where she's like, it was all about like patience. And then she's like, and I think I realized that Dad didn't even like it. He just did it for me because he said you need to do something bad to prevent yourself from doing something worse. And it's like, that's the
Yeah.
line where you realize like her dad, as you mentioned 30 seconds into the podcast, that like her dad realized she was a psycho, and he was like, he couldn't save Charlie. He was trying to save her.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, another brilliant transition at that scene too, where she's brushing her hair and her hair turns into grass. I love that.
Well, also, as she's saying the do something bad so you don't do something worse, the mom stops her because she's like, oh shit. She realizes it too, and she's like, all right, we're done here.
I don't want you behind me anymore. You have to be in my field of vision.
So then she's like, I'm going to go through your father's study the next day and get rid of everything. And so India does that, and she finds these letters from these far off places.
So hold on. I want to put a pin in here for a second because she has the key, right? That she got from Miss
McGarrick.
Because Miss McGarrick usually puts the shoes. But so Charlie gave her shoes, right? But Miss McGarrick swapped them out for the key because she wanted India to eventually find those letters.
I think Charlie wanted her to find those letters. I don't think Miss McGarrick made a ton of decisions on her own.
Okay, so you think Charlie purposely wanted her to find those letters?
Yeah, I think he wanted to tell her.
Okay.
And then but then she finds the letters, reads them, but then she sees on the back they're all from the Crawford Institution, and she's going to call the cops, but then he sort of sees her, so then she kind of calls him out. And this is where we get the flashback of him killing Jonathan, the youngest brother, which is like super fucked up scene. Especially when you go back to it and he's just fucking doing snow angels over his dead brother's buried body.
Yeah.
Which I am curious, like, I know it's a little kid. I mean, do you think Richard could have
saved him?
Gotten to him quick enough?
No way. First of all, I always forget how he offs Jonathan. And I thought because he built a castle in the field of view that he was mowing, I thought the Richard was gonna like run over the sandcastle into Jonathan in the hole. But it makes so much more sense that he buried him.
Yeah, that's not really how mowers work.
I'm pretty sure as a little kid you have like a minute, 2 minutes tops to get out of there before suffocating. And I think when Richard found him, it was long after 2 minutes.
Yeah, but then we also get the scene where, and this is one of Matthew Goode's greatest scenes, where he's like, the flashback to him talking to Richard, and he's like, oh, well, I thought you were going to take me home. And he's like, no, you have to go to New York. You know why you can't be near. And Matthew Goode's even like, but what about, I'm not going to get to see India? And then he's like, I love you, but I just have to love you a little less. And then stone to the head. But I got to say, so Matthew Goode, then says the line back to him, I got to love you a little less, and then hits him with the stone. And then Richard goes and grabs his body, but leaves the arm that has the stone free. It's like, you have to grab that arm. That arm's the only thing you have to grab to save yourself. But instead, you're just like leaving yourself exposed to get hit with a rock more.
Maybe he was going in for a hug.
He's like, I love you.
The reveal on like India realizing that all the letters were backstamped with the institution, and like the all the letters falling, and you see the drawing of all the different countries. And then they play it again when she realizes he was in an institution this entire time. It's really eerie. Like, this movie, it's not scary in the sense that it's like jump scares and stuff like that, but this movie's really creepy, and like certain things just stay with you through the whole thing.
Yeah. So right after this, I did think that the scene with the little boy and him burying his brother, like, I think I've seen a lot of similar things like that, even like TV shows, like, where you'll have like one of like a fucked up ending that's just supposed to stay with you, like that. It's almost a little like, I don't know, like emotionally manipulative in that, like, it's like just a really fucked up thing, like to, it's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? Like, it's just like, here's the most fucked up thing that's gonna like make you be like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened. But you like, he did something fucked up, right? Like, like, I don't know.
You saying that, it kind of reminded me of like, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Hannibal.
No, I haven't.
Or if you've ever seen the show Dexter. But the way that they end those seasons is kind of like that. It's like the whole season, or like the last 5 episodes, you don't think anyone important has died, apart from like a few, side characters or whatever. But you don't think anyone has really important has died. And then the last shot of like the season finale, it shows like, oh, you haven't seen this character for the whole episode because they've been dead the whole time. It's just like a low blow emotionally, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I've seen it done a lot before, and I think the whole point is just like this. It's supposed to be this like, oh my god, that's so fucked up thing. It's just like a very like, it's just like a very easy box to check to like get people to be like, oh god, like,
well,
that's awful.
What would you do? Well, like, how would you write it different?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, exactly.
It works well enough.
It works fine. So we get kind of, now we're flash forward to the present, and this is like it's pretty great because remember in the beginning of the movie, she's on the bottom of the staircase and he's on the top, and she's like, I don't know why I feel like at such a disadvantage. And then at this scene where she's confronting him about it, and he's explaining to her like, yeah, I'm the one who killed your dad, he's at the bottom of the steps walking up to her. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did. And then he goes and gives her these heels, which one, raise her height to his, but two, and this isn't something I would realize, but I guess the movie, they were trying to find shoes that were, first they want to use leopard print to represent that she's like a predator. And then they thought about snake print, but I guess the shoes they gave her are crocodile Louboutins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, to give this whole
Louboutins, huh?
Yeah. Well, which is then she walks up and shoots him and like kills him while she's still wearing these heels, right?
Yeah.
But we get the scene where the sheriff stops by to ask about Whip, and she like sort of doesn't know what to say, and he kind of saves her. And then they're like, oh, the sheriff's going to be back, and he's like, well, we're going to go to New York tomorrow, so we'll do that. And she's like, I'll go with you. And this is where Nicole Kidman, who hasn't been in the movie for like 40 minutes, like shows back up. I think
the last thing we saw her do was burning all that stuff and like her walking around the fire.
No, that happens right after this. The last thing we saw was Matthew Goode grabbing her tit.
Oh,
as he's making out with her.
Yeah.
So then she sees them. She then immediately burns her husband's stuff. She then like takes a shower. She then comes downstairs to eat, but like no one makes her food, so she's just sitting there. And she gives this great monologue about like having children and like you do it to start over and you just want for the best for your children. But then she says all that and then turns to the camera, which is supposed to be her looking directly at India. But she's like, personally speaking, I can't wait to watch life tear you apart.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so fucking good.
Which is funny because she says that to her and then she tells Matthew Goode to come upstairs. And then I think it dawns on her as Matthew Goode backs her into a corner and starts like
she took sides with the wrong person.
No, that she is way like out of her depth, and that she's with no, but for either of them. So she's with two predators, right? Because then Matthew Goode backs her into a corner. She's like, "Take me, don't take my daughter," because she's like accusing him of murder, and he's like, yeah, I did, and I'll murder you too." And she gets scared. She's like, "Take me, don't take my daughter." So he starts making out with her, and then throws her on the ground and starts strangling her, right, to death
with the belt.
With the belt.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "India, get in here, watch this." And then India comes in with the gun, and you see a flashback to her father, and he gives the okay, and then she shoots. And then she goes up and like puts her head up to Charlie as he dies to hear his last breaths, and then has the blood all over his face. And then Nicole Kidman looks at her and is just like, "What the fuck?"
I wish she said it too.
Right?
She just says, "What the fuck?" You know, you were saying that Nicole Kidman's kind of in her own movie. You said this earlier before recording. And Nicole Kidman's acting for this is just like, it's so good. It's so, oh man, it's so good, but it really does feel like a different film she's in the entire time.
And so since we're kind of close to the end, so she passed on this movie because she wanted to like spend more time with her kids. And so Park Chan-wook wanted her so badly. And I think he originally had Jodie Foster, but she had to back out. But he wanted Nicole Kidman so badly that they filmed it in Tennessee 5 minutes from her house so that she would do it, so that, you know, she could be with her kids.
Oh, that's really nice.
So yeah, I agree that she is just actually like fantastic in this, and it's really everyone. So Carey Mulligan, Kristen Stewart, Rooney Mara, which we're about to do another Rooney Mara movie, Emily Browning, Emma Roberts, and then I don't know who Bella Heathcote is, and then Ashley Greene were all considered for India Stoker.
I thought you were going to say Nicole Kidman's character. I was like, I don't know about that. But yeah, for all of those, and then they picked Alice in Wonderland, huh? That's interesting.
Well, I think Carey Mulligan and Mia Wasikowska, I think, not that they're both incredible actresses, and because of that, and I guess their look, I think they can be interchanged pretty well in roles.
Isn't Mulligan quite a bit older than her, though?
I don't know.
I think so. I think they need to pick someone that could play young high school, because I think the thing I like about Mia in this film is that she's really unassuming. Like, you don't expect all this coming from her, and then she just kind of just fucking kicks ass. So since we're at the end, this is kind of what I wanted to mention, is that I don't think the twist is he's evil and she's psychotic or anything like that, because like you said, we see this coming. I think the twist is that Mia, even though she's been on Charlie's side the whole time and she's been kind of against her mom, and her mom even is against her at the end, she still takes that moment to save her mom and kill Charlie. That decision, I think, is the twist.
Yeah, but I don't know I think part of the reason Nicole Kidman is so shocked with her is that she's like, you let it get this close to him killing me, before taking him out. Carey Mulligan's 4 years older than Mia Wasikowska. So
I was right.
But the other thing too is like, I do think there is like a little bit of Nicole Kidman is like, I'm surrounded by this other psycho now, but she loves me enough to let me live, I guess. You know what I mean? And then we get the final scene with the sheriff, which I love the effectively fast. He's like, effectively for what? To get you to follow me. And then she fucking shears him in the neck. And then
Yeah.
shoots him. Which I read something that said like at the end of this movie, she's driving to New York, which I guess she takes like all that stuff of
Takes all this
Charlie's.
stuff. Yeah.
That's like interesting, you know. So the second movie would just be her as a serial killer in New York City.
There is no second movie. This is an allegory for cancer. Okay.
Well, there is a prequel book called Uncle Charlie.
Oh, really? That's interesting. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Which we kind of know what happened. I mean, he's in an institution this whole time. What do we need? I don't know what we need.
Can we also talk about real quick that weird relationship he has with the woman that greets Richard at the door of the institution? And then she's like, "Oh, we are so thankful for your families." They bought the institution because they wanted Charlie to be able to live there forever. Is that what happened?
I guess, but then he's also getting out. Like they're like, "Oh yeah, he chose to stay here. He's allowed to leave." And he's leaving on
Her
he chose
18th birthday.
today.
Creepy as fuck right there again.
Yeah, this is an allegory for all those people who are like the Olsen twins turn 18 this year, or such and such turns 18 this day. That's what this is an allegory for. Of like, you guys are sick.
Yeah, be warned of those people. But the thing about when she approaches him to hug him and be like, "Bye, Charlie," he takes a step back before going in and embracing her. And I was like, did she abuse him while he was in there?
No. He says in one of the letters that she reads out loud, you know, they're working on hugging here, and he's like, and I hate doing it. Or no, he's talking not here because he's like, oh, in this country they kiss on both cheeks and hug. He's like, and I hate it, but I might make an exception for you. And so the reason he backs off is he doesn't like to hug her. But then he sees Richard watching this, and he's like, I have to act normal for Richard. And so then he gives her a big hug.
Oh, okay. So he has a problem with like the touch. So every time he hugs or he touches Nicole Kidman, he has to like really find it within himself to like play her.
Well, and Nicole Kidman at the beginning says, oh, you know, my daughter doesn't like to be touched. I'm her mother. You know what I mean? So there's another little thing. Yeah, like I said, weird movie, but I really liked it. I think, you know, it has like, I don't know, so reviews. Like some people think it's amazing and some people are like, this is shit. I do think like a second watch really makes you appreciate this movie more. And the performances are pretty incredible. And it's just like Park Chan-wook knows what he's doing, right? So it's like it all does work together if you allow it to.
I agree. Like I said before, I went to go see this movie thinking it was about Dracula, but I'm glad it wasn't. I really liked this film, and I'm really glad you liked it too, because I think it is a niche film that could be a hit or miss, but it sounds like a hit. So, thanks everybody for listening to another episode of I Finally Watched. I'm Alon,
and this is David, and today I finally watched Stoker.